Hey everybody, welcome back to the Shanty. It is a beautiful, cold, sunny Sunday morning here in the Shanty. So Wednesday afternoon, I got an email from our partner Rob DeBow, but when I say I got, the entire labor and employment practice group at Warner and Norcross and Judd got an email from Rob DeBow that had an article in it from the Wall Street Journal about a young lady who filmed her termination. Some of you may have seen this. It has apparently gone viral. For those of you that don't know Rob is, as I said, a partner in the Labor and Employment Practice Group. He is also one of the most brilliant labor and employment lawyers I've ever worked with. And he has this uncanny ability for finding these things. I don't know if he gets up at 4 a.m. and reads the advance sheets or whatever he does, but for finding these things and sending them to us so that we can learn from them. This one apparently came from a client to Rob. Thank you to the client who sent it. You know who you are. And he sent it on to us. And he said the following when he sent it to us. In case you might be interested in yet another way that departing employees can make your client part of the social media dust-up. And attached to this was this article from the Wall Street Journal. And here's the title of the article. The tech employee who went viral for filming her firing has no regrets. Now, I'm not going to talk about the social media dust-up. But I do want to talk about this video that ended up on social media and that has gotten a gazillion hits. Because I went and watched it. It's about 9.5 minutes long, and it is a difficult watch. For those of us that do what we do, I'm an employment lawyer. You guys are mostly HR people. For those of you that supervise people, do HR, this is going to be a tough watch for you. Because in my opinion, this is a primer. This is a 9.5 minute primer on how not to fire an employee. The exact wrong things to do. And there's a lot of things we can take out of this video that is wrong. But what I want to focus on is doing it right. So here's what I'd like you to do. I want you to go watch this video. I think you should. It'll make you very uncomfortable. And when you've done that, come on back. And then we'll talk about Palazzolo's 3 rules for properly firing an employee. Okay, you're back. Did you see the video? Know what I'm talking about now? That was tough, wasn't it? All right, so here's Palazzolo's 3 rules for properly firing an employee. Rule number 1. We do not fire people on video. There's 2 good reasons for that. The first good reason ought to be obvious. The first good reason we don't do it on video or over Zoom or Teams or even a telephone call, if you can avoid it, is this. You don't want to end up plastered all over social media. Doesn't matter how well you handle the termination. We all make mistakes occasionally. You might say something or do something that you didn't mean to say or do, and now it's on video forever. Not only for people on social media to see, but for a lawyer to use in the lawsuit that might get filed as a result of this. But the second reason we don't do these things on video, and really the more important reason in terms of people, which is what you guys are involved with, is people, is common courtesy. You're about to fire an employee. That's a very traumatic thing for the employee. Doesn't matter if it was the worst employee in the world that you ever had. It's still traumatic for the employee being fired. I've been fired. Some of you have been fired. By the way, I deserved it. It was before I was a lawyer. Relax. It's hard on the person getting fired. It's hard on you too. You don't want to do this. I think you owe the employee the courtesy of getting in the room with them and actually taking the time to sit down and fire them and not doing it over video or telephone call. Now, I get there are going to be exceptions to that rule. Some of you have employees scattered all over the United States. You are not scattered all over the United States. Sometimes employees are violent or difficult and you don't want to be in a room with them. And those things make sense, but those should be the exceptions, not the rule. So Palazzolo's rule number 1 is do it in person. Okay? Palazzolo's rule number 2. The manager or supervisor of this individual has to be in the room when the termination is being done. As a matter of fact, they're the person doing the firing, not human resources. We don't outsource these things to HR. It's the manager or the supervisor that's not getting the performance out of the employee that wants them to be let go. I just got done telling you how hard these things are, and you know how hard these things are. And managers and supervisors should not be able to avoid their responsibility by outsourcing this to human resources. We don't outsource terminations. With all due respect to George Clooney and Anna Kendrick and their really brilliant movie Up in the Air, if you haven't seen it, you should go see it. We don't outsource terminations to somebody else, no matter how many of them we want to do, no matter how difficult it might be. Now, should HR be in the room? 100% HR should be in the room. The CEO of the company even said that in the article I read. We'll talk about the CEO in a minute. And HR should be in the room. And there should be two people in the room all the time. But one of them's got to be the manager or the supervisor. It's their responsibility. Plus, this employee made a big deal out of the fact in this video that she had no idea who the two people that were talking to her and firing her were. As a matter of fact, she even said, "Do you even know what I do?" That's why she knew to record this. You're wondering how'd she know to record this? Well, according to the article I read, and according to the video, a number of her colleagues were very upset. They had gotten meeting invites from these anonymous HR people for these meetings, and it turns out they went to the meetings and they got fired. So when she saw a meeting invite from two HR people she didn't know, she thought it might be a good idea to record the meeting. And you could see her in the video pressing the record button, like you can me in these when I shut them off. Manager or supervisor needs to be in the room. Somebody that is directly responsible for the employee's performance, which leads us to rule number 3. This should never be a surprise. Now, this employee spends a lot of time. They tell her she's being fired for performance. They don't get into any specifics. I'm cool with that. You don't necessarily need to get into specifics. But one of the things she said is, well, every time I met with my manager or supervisor or whichever it was, they told me what a great job I was doing. And I've only been here a short period of time, and I know I haven't closed anything, but I'm doing a great job, and they told me I was doing a great job. Now, if I don't know if that's true or not. Here's what I do know. The manager or the supervisor wasn't in the room to say, now, come on. We met on this day and we talked about this performance metric, and we met on this day and we talked about this performance metric, and we met on this day and we talked about this performance metric. She kept going back to that in the video. At the end, she said, do you guys even know what I do or why I'm being fired? This was clearly a surprise to her. Now, should it have been a surprise? I don't know, and neither do you, because we weren't involved in this employee's termination. Here's what we do know. What we do know is sometimes you can do everything right, and an employee will still go, I can't believe you're firing me. I'm the greatest employee you ever had. I'm not talking about that employee. I'm talking about a reasonable employee in the shoes of this employee. But if you're an HR person that never dealt with this person, you're not going to know that. And the manager and the supervisor, again, melding Rule 2 and Rule 3 together, do know what performance feedback they've given to the employee. So it shouldn't be a surprise to these employees, right? And she keeps asking, what metric we'll circle back. At one point, there's 15 seconds of dead air while HR tries to think of a response, which they don't do very successfully. So those are Palazzolo's 3 rules for firing people. Number 1, do it in person whenever you can. Number 2, manager or supervisor always in the room. Number 3, it should never be a surprise. Now, look, on number 3, are there going to be times when you just have to bring an employee in and fire them? If they steal from you, if they smack somebody, if they're violent? Yo, sure. We're talking about simple performance terminations here, right? In those cases, should not be a surprise. So if those are the 3 rules, Palazzolo, why aren't we done? Because I want to talk about CEO a minute. Because the CEO responded to this. He did it in a tweet. I know it's not a tweet anymore. It's an X or whatever it is. But to me, it's going to be a tweet. It's a long tweet. I'm not going to read the whole thing for you. I'm going to read a little of it. Here's the quote. Quote, we fired 40 salespeople out of over 1,500 in our go-to-market org. I assume that's the sales org. That's what they call the sales organization, the customer-facing organization. That's a normal quarter. When we're doing performance management right, we can often tell within 3 months or less of a sales hire, even during the holidays, whether they're going to be successful or not. Remember, part of this employee, she'd only been there a short period of time, and part of it was Christmas. If you fire 40 people every quarter, you ought to be way better at doing that than you were in this video. Now, a lot of things we can learn from this, as I said. So go watch the video, if you haven't already done it, where I gave you the break. And then if you've got questions about performance management, or about hiring, or about how to fire people right and what to do, or even if you want to just know, hey, have I lined this up the way I should have? I've gotten to the point now where I need to let somebody go. Have I lined this up the way I should have? Give us a call. We'll help you get through it. Can we keep you off of social media? Probably not. There's a lot of people out there now that the minute they feel like they're wrong, they start typing into whatever social media platform they're right on. So, nobody can guarantee you're not going to get popped in social media. But we can certainly help you look a lot better if you do end up there than I think this company looked. Talk to you next time.